Serial Experiments Lain, is an anime series directed by Ryutaro Nakamura, with character design by Yoshitoshi ABe, screenplay written by Chiaki J. Konaka, and produced by Yasuyuki Ueda for Triangle staff. It was broadcast on TV Tokyo from July to September 1998. A PlayStation game with the same title was released in November 1998 by Pioneer LDC. Serial Experiments Lain is an avant-garde anime influenced by philosophical subjects such as reality, identity, and communication. The series focuses on Lain Iwakura, an adolescent girl living in suburban Japan, and her introduction to The Wired, a global communications network similar to the Internet. Lain lives with her middle-class family, which consists of her inexpressive older sister Mika, her cold mother, and her computer-obsessed father. The first ripple on the pond of Lain's lonely life appears when she learns that girls from her school have received an email from Shiza Yamoda, a schoolmate who had committed suicide. When Lain receives the message at home, Shiza tells her that she is not dead, but has merely abandoned her physical body and flesh, and is alive deep within the virtual reality world of the Wired itself, and that she has found the almighty and divine God there. From then on, Lain is bound to a path which will take her ever deeper into both the network and her own subconscious thoughts and sensations. The anime series was licensed in North America by Genon on DVD, VHS, and Laserdisc. However, Genon closed its USA division in December 2007 and the series went out of print as a result. However, at Anime Expo 2010, North American distributor Funimation Entertainment announced that it had obtained the license to the series and re-released it in 2012. Funimation has since released all 13 episodes on YouTube. It was also released in Singapore by Odex. The video game, which shares only the themes and protagonist with the series, was never released outside Japan. The series demonstrates influences embracing philosophy, computer history, cyberpunk literature, and conspiracy theory, and it was made the subject of several academic articles. English-language anime reviewers found it to be weird and unusual, with generally positive reviews. Producer Ueda said he intended Japanese and American audiences to form conflicting views on the series, but was disappointed in this regard, as the impressions turned out to be similar. Plot: Serial Experiments Lain describes The Wired as a virtual reality world that contains and supports the very sum of all human communication and networks, created with the telegraph, televisions, and telephone services, and expanded with the Internet, cyberspace, and subsequent networks. The anime assumes that the Wired could be linked to a system that enables unconscious communication between people and machines without physical interface. The storyline introduces such a system with the Schumann resonance, a property of the Earth's magnetic field that theoretically allows for unhindered long-distance communications. If such a link was created, the network would become equivalent to reality as the general consensus of all perceptions and knowledge. The increasingly thin invisible line between what is real and what is virtual digital begins to slowly shatter. Masami Irie is introduced as the project director on Protocol 7 for major computer company Tachibana General Laboratories. He had secretly included code of his very own creation to give himself absolute control of the Wired through the wireless system described above. He then uploaded his own brain, conscience, consciousness, memory, feelings, emotions, his very self into the Wired and died a few days after, leaving only his physical, living body behind. These details are unveiled around the middle of the series, but this is the point where the story of Serial Experiments Lain begins. Masami later explains that Lain is the artifact by which the wall between the virtual and material worlds is to fall, and that he needs her to get to the Wired and abandon the flesh, as he did, to achieve his plan. The series sees him trying to convince her through interventions, using the promise of unconditional love, romantic seduction and charm, and even, when all else fails, threats and force. In the meantime, the anime follows a complex game of hide-and-seek between the Knights of the Eastern Calculus, hackers whom Masami claims are believers that enable him to be a god in the Wired, and Tachibana General Laboratories, who try to regain control of Protocol 7. In the end, the viewer sees Lain realizing, after much introspection, that she has absolute control over everyone's mind and over reality itself. Her dialogue with different versions of herself shows how she feels shunned from the material world, and how she is afraid to live in the wired, where she is the possibilities and responsibilities of an almighty goddess. The last scenes feature her erasing everything connected to herself from everyone's memories. She is last seen, unchanged, encountering her oldest and closest friend Alice once again, who is now married. Lain promises herself that she and Alice will surely meet again anytime, as Lain can literally go and be anywhere she desires between both worlds. Characters: Lain Iwakura, voiced by Kaori Shimizu, Bridget Hoffman, the titular character of the series. Lain is a 14-year-old girl who uncovers her true nature through the series. She is first depicted as a shy junior high school student with few friends or interests. She later grows multiple, bolder personalities, both in the physical and wired worlds. As the series progresses, she eventually comes to discover that she is, in reality, merely an autonomous and sentient software computer program in the physical and corporeal form of a human being, designed to sever the invisible barrier between the wired and real worlds. In the end, Lain herself is actually revealed to be none other than the almighty and all-powerfully divine goddess of the wired itself, and that she is an omnipotent and omnipresent computerized, virtual being that can practically exist and be anywhere between both worlds of existence at once. Masami Iri, voiced by Sho Hayami, Kirk Thornton, the key designer of Protocol 7. While working for Tachibana General Laboratories, he illicitly included code enabling him to control the whole protocol at will and embedded his own mind and will, subconsciousness, conscience, thoughts, feelings and emotions into the 7th protocol. Consequently, he was fired by Tachibana General Laboratories and was soon found dead on a railway. He believes that the only way for humans to evolve even further and develop even greater abilities is to utterly absolve themselves from their physical and human limitations and live as digital virtual entities, avatars in the wired for eternity. He claims to have been Lain's creator all along, but was in truth standing in for another who was waiting for the wired world to reach its more evolved current state and form. Yasuo Iwakura, voiced by Ryusuke Abe, Barry Stigler, passionate about computers and electronic communication, he is shown as working with Masami Iri at Tachibana General Laboratories. He subtly pushes Lain, his youngest daughter, towards the wired and monitors her development until she becomes more and more aware of herself and her reason of existence in the wired itself. He eventually leaves her, telling her that he did not enjoy playing a family, but truly did love and care about her as a true father would. He seems eager to lure her into the wired, but warns her not to get overly involved in it and not confuse it with the real world. Mio Iwakura, voiced by Rei Igarashi, Patria Burchard, Lain's mother, a caring housewife and mother. She always dotes on Mika, but treats Lain indifferently. Like her husband, she also leaves Lain and wasn't really a part of the family. Alice Mizuki, voiced by Yoko Asada, Emily Brown, Lain's classmate and her only true and closest friend throughout the series, Alice is a devoted confidant and has a simple, sincere personality. She is the first to attempt to help Lain socialize by taking her to a nightclub, and from this point always tries to protect and take care of her. Lain considers Alice as her only real and closest friend. Alice is introduced as the shyest part of a junior high school trio, but her character development shows a fearless dedication to her friends. Alice, along with her two best friends Juri and Rika, were taken by Chiaki Konaka from his previous work, Alice in Cyberland. Mika Iwakura, voiced by Yako Kawasumi, Patricia Lee, Lain's older sister, an apathetic 16-year-old student who casually picks on her little sister's habits and behavior. Mika is considered by Anime Revolution to be the only normal member of Lain's family. She sees her boyfriend in love hotels, is on a diet, and shops in Shibuya. At a certain point in the series, her consciousness is seriously damaged by violent hallucinations. While Lain begins freely delving into the wired, Mika is taken there by her proximity to Lain and gets stuck between the physical world and the wired. Taro, voiced by Kato Takamoto, Brian Siddall, a young boy of about Lane's age, who occasionally works for the Knights to bring forth the one truth. He has not yet been made a member, and is unaware of their full intentions. Taro loves virtual reality video games and hangs out all day at the Siberian nightclub with his friends, Maya and Masayuki. He uses special technology, such as custom handy Navi and video goggles. Taro takes pride in his internet anonymity and asks Lane for a date with her wired self in exchange for information. Office worker, voiced by Shigeru Chiba, Richard Plantagenet, a top executive from Tachibana General Laboratories who has his own agenda, which he carries out through the use of the Men in Black. He looks forward to the arrival of a real god through the Wired, and is the man behind the Knight's mass assassination. He is aware of many hidden facts about Lane, but is more inclined to ask questions than to reveal anything. Men in Black, Carl Horshofer, voiced by Takumi Yamazaki, Jameson Price, Lin Sui-zai, voiced by Juji Nakata, Bob Buchholz. Both men work for the above office worker in tracking down and murdering all of the members of the Knights. They are not told the true plan, but they know that Masami Iri is somehow involved, despite having been killed. They think that an almighty, all-powerful god is not needed in the Wired, nor is Lane. Production: Serial Experiments Lain was conceived, as a series, to be original to the point of it being considered an enormous risk by its producer Yasuyuki Ueda. Producer Ueda had to answer repeated queries about a statement made in an America interview. The controversial statement said Lane was a sort of cultural war against American culture and the American sense of values Japan adopted after World War II. He later explained in numerous interviews that he created Lane with a set of values he took as distinctly Japanese. He hoped Americans would not understand the series as the Japanese would. This would lead to a war of ideas over the meaning of the anime, hopefully culminating in new communication between the two cultures. When he discovered that the American audience held the same views on the series as the Japanese, he was disappointed. The Lane franchise was originally conceived to connect across forms of media. Producer Yasuyuki Ueda said in an interview, "The approach I took for this project was to communicate the essence of the work by the total sum of many media products." The scenario for the video game was written first, and the video game was produced at the same time as the anime series, though the series was released first. A doujinshi named The Nightmare of Fabrication was produced by Yoshitoshi ABe and released in Japanese in the art book Omnipresence in the Wired. Ueda and Konaka declared in an interview that the idea of a multimedia project was not unusual in Japan, as opposed to the contents of Lane, and the way they are exposed. Writing: the authors were asked in interviews if they had been influenced by Neon Genesis Evangelion, in the themes and graphic design. This was strictly denied by writer Chiaki J. Konaka in an interview, arguing that he had not seen Evangelion until he finished the fourth episode of Lane. Being primarily a horror movies writer, his stated influences are Godard, The Exorcist, Hell House, and Dan Curtis's House of Dark Shadows. Alice's name, like the names of her two friends Julie and Rika, came from a previous production from Konaka, Alice in Cyberland, which in turn was largely influenced by Alice in Wonderland. As the series developed, Konaka was surprised by how close Alice's character became to the original Wonderland character. Vannevar Bush, John C. Lilly, Timothy Leary and his Eighth Circuit model of consciousness, Ted Nelson and Project Xonad are cited as precursors to The Wired. Douglas Rushkoff and his book Siberia were originally to be cited as such, and in Lane Siberia became the name of a nightclub populated with hackers and techno-punk teenagers. Likewise, the series Deus Ex Machina lies in the conjunction of the Schumann resonance and Jung's collective unconscious. Majestic 12 and the Roswell UFO incident are used as examples of how a hoax might still have an impact on history, even after having been exposed as such, by creating subcultures. This links again to Vannevar Bush, the alleged brains of MJ-12. Two of the literary references in Lane are quoted through Lane's father. He first logs onto a website with the password ThinkBullCount12. And his saying that Madeleines would be good with the tea in the last episode makes Lane perhaps the only cartoon to allude to Proust. Character design. Yoshitoshi Abe confesses to have never read manga as a child, as it was off-limits in his household. His major influences are nature and everything around him. Specifically speaking about Lane's character, Abe was inspired by Kenji Tsurata, Akihiro Yamada, Range Murata, and Yukinobu Oshino. In a broader view, he has been influenced in his style and technique by Japanese artists Janai-san and Tabuchi-san. The character design of Lane was not Abe's sole responsibility. Her distinctive left forelock, for instance, was a demand from Yasuyuki Ueda. The goal was to produce asymmetry to reflect Lane's unstable and disconcerting nature. It was designed as a mystical symbol, as it is supposed to prevent voices and spirits from being heard by the left ear. The bear pajamas she wears were a demand from character animation director Takahiro Kishida. Though bears are a trademark of the Konaka brothers, Chiaki Konaka first opposed the idea. Director Nakamura then explained how the bear motif could be used as a shield for confrontations with her family. It is a key element of the design of the shy real-world Lane. When she first goes to the Siberian nightclub, she wears a bear hat for similar reasons. The pajamas were finally considered as possible fan service by Konaka, in the way they enhance Lane's nymph aspect. Abe's original design was generally more complicated than what finally appeared on screen. As an example, the X-shaped hair clip was to be an interlocking pattern of gold links. The links would open with a snap, or rotate around an axis until the moment the X became equal. This was not used as there is no scene where Lane takes her hair clip off. Themes: Serial Experiments Lain is not a conventionally linear story, but an alternative anime, with modern themes and realization. Themes range from theological to psychological and are dealt with in a number of ways, from classical dialogue to image-only introspection, passing by direct interrogation of imaginary characters. Communication, in its widest sense, is one of the main themes of the series, not only as opposed to loneliness, but also as a subject in itself. Writer Konaka said he wanted to directly communicate human feelings. Director Nakamura wanted to show the audience and particularly viewers between 14 and 15 the multidimensional wavelength of the existential self, the relationship between self and the world. Loneliness, if only as representing a lack of communication, is recurrent through Lane. Lane herself is almost painfully introverted with no friends to speak of at school, a snotty, condescending sister, a strangely apathetic mother, and a father who seems to want to care but is just too damn busy to give her much of his time. Friendships turn on the first rumor. And the only insert song of the series is named Kodoku no Shigunara, literally signal of loneliness. Mental illness, especially dissociative identity disorder, is a significant theme in Lane. The main character is constantly confronted with alter egos, to the point where writer Chiaki Konaka and Lane's voice actress Kaori Shimizu had to agree on subdividing the character's dialogues between 3 different orthographs. The 3 names designate distinct versions of Lane. The real world, childish Lane has a shy attitude and bear pajamas. The advanced Lane, her wide personality, is bold and questioning. Finally, the evil Lane is sly and devious, and does everything she can to harm Lane or the ones close to her. As a writing convention, the authors spelled their respective names in kanji, katakana, and Roman characters. Reality never has the pretense of objectivity in Lane. Acceptations of the term are battling throughout the series, such as the natural reality, defined through normal dialogue between individuals, the material reality, and the tyrannic reality, enforced by one person onto the minds of others. A key debate to all interpretations of the series is to decide whether matter flows from thought, or the opposite. The production staff carefully avoided the so-called God's Eye viewpoint to make clear the limited field of vision of the world of Lane. Theology plays its part in the development of the story too. Lane has been viewed as a questioning of the possibility of an infinite spirit in a finite body. From self-realization as a goddess to deicide, religion is an inherent part of Lane's background. Apple computers, Lane contains extensive references to Apple computers, as the brand was used at the time by most of the creative staff, such as writers, producers, and the graphical team. As an example, the title at the beginning of each episode is announced by the Apple computer speech synthesis program Plain Talk, using the voice whisper, for example say whisper with, Layer 01. Tachibana Industries, the company that creates the NAVI computers, is a reference to Apple computers. Tachibana means Mandarin orange in Japanese. NAVI is the abbreviation of Knowledge Navigator, and the HANDI Navi is based on the Apple Newton, one of the world's first PDAs. The NAVIs are seen to run Copland OS Enterprise, and Lane's and Alice's NAVIs closely resembles the 20th anniversary Macintosh and the iMac respectively. The HANDI Navi programming language, as seen on the 7th episode, is a dialect of Lisp. Notice that the Newton also used a Lisp dialect. The program being typed by Lane can be found in the CMUAI repository. It is a simple implementation of Conway's Game of Life in Common Lisp. During a series of disconnected images, an iMac and the Think Different advertising slogan appears for a short time, while the whisper voice says it. This was an unsolicited insertion from the graphic team, also Mac enthusiasts. Other subtle allusions can be found: close the world, open the next is the slogan for the serial Experiments Lain video game. Next was the company that produced NeXTSTEP, which later evolved into Mac OS X after Apple bought Next. Another example is to be continued. At the end of episodes 1:12, with a blue B, and a red E on B. This B is the original logo of B Incorporated, a company founded by ex-Apple employees and Next's main competitor in its time. Media, anime. Serial Experiments Lain was first aired on TV Tokyo on July 6, 1998 and concluded on September 28, 1998 with the 13th and final episode. The series consists of 13 episodes of 24 minutes each, except for the 6th episode, Kids. In Japan, the episodes were released in LD, VHS, and DVD with a total of 5 volumes. A DVD compilation named Serial Experiments Lain DVD BOXTHS Erection was released along with a promo DVD called LPA 309 in 2000. As this box set is now discontinued, a re-release was made in 2005 called Serial Experiments Lain TV Box. A 4-volume DVD box set was released in the US by Pioneer LDC. A Blu-ray release of the anime was made on December 2009 called Serial Experiments Lain Blu-ray Box Restore. The anime series returned to US television on October 15, 2012 on the Funimation channel. The series' opening theme, Duvet, was written and performed in English by the British band Bar. The ending theme, To Sakebe, was written and composed by Ryuki Nakaido. Artbooks, Omnipresence in the Wired, hardbound, 128 pages in 96 colors with Japanese text. It features a chapter for each layer and concept sketches. It also features a short color manga titled The Nightmare of Fabrication. It was published in 1998 by Triangle staff Pioneer LDC. Yoshitoshi ABe Lane illustrations rebuild an Omnipresence in the Wired, hardbound, 148 pages. A remake of Omnipresence in the Wired with new art, added text by Chiaki J. Konaka, and a section entitled Abe's Eye in Color of Things. It was published in Japan on October 1, 2005 by Warner Magazine, and in America as a softcover version translated into English in July 2006 by Digital Manga Publishing. Visual Experiments Lain, paperback, 84 color pages with Japanese text. It has details on the creation, design, and storyline of the series. It was published in 1998 by Triangle staff Pioneer LDC. Scenario Experiments Lain, paperback, 335 pages. By Chiaki J. Konaka. It contains collected scripts with notes and small excerpted storyboards. Soundtracks. The first original soundtrack, Serial Experiments Lain soundtrack, features music by Ryuki Nakaido, the ending theme and part of the television series score. The series' opening theme, Duvet, was written and performed in English by the British rock band Bar. The second, Serial Experiments Lain soundtrack, Siberia Mix, features electronica songs inspired by the television series, including a remix of the opening theme Duvet. The third, Lain bootleg, consists of 2 CDs with more than 45 tracks, containing ambient music from the series. One of the CDs is a mixed-mode data and audio disc, containing a clock program and a game. It was released by Pioneer Records. Because the word bootleg appears in its title, it is easily confused with the Sonmei counterfeit edition of itself, which contains 1 CD of 45 tracks, some of which are shorter than on the original. Video game. On November 26, 1998, Pioneer LDC released a video game titled Serial Experiments Lain for the PlayStation. It was designed by Konaka and Yasuyuki, and made to be a network simulator in which the player would navigate to explore Lain's story. The creators themselves did not call it a game, but Psycho Stretchware, and it has been described as being a kind of graphic novel. The gameplay is limited to unlocking pieces of information, and then listening to them, with little or no puzzle needed to unlock. Lain distances itself even more from classical games by the random order in which information is collected. The aim of the authors was to let the player get the feeling that there are myriads of informations that he would have to sort through, and that he would have to do with less than what exists to understand. As with the anime, the creative team's main goal was to let the player feel Lain, and to understand her problems, and to love her. A guidebook to the game called Serial Experiments Lain Official Guide was released the same month by MediaWorks. Reception. Lain was first broadcast in Tokyo at 1:15 a.m. JST. The word weird appears almost systematically in English-language reviews of the series, or the alternatives bizarre, and atypical, due mostly to the freedoms taken with the animation and its unusual science fiction themes, and due to its philosophical and psychological context. Critics responded positively to these thematic and stylistic characteristics, and it was awarded an Excellence Prize by the 1998 Japan Media Arts Festival for its willingness to question the meaning of contemporary life, and the extraordinarily philosophical and deep questions it asks. According to Christian Nutt from Newtype USA, the main attraction to the series is its keen view on the interlocking problems of identity and technology. Nutt saluted Abe's crisp, clean character design, and the perfect soundtrack in his 2005 review of series, saying that Serial Experiments Lain might not yet be considered a true classic, but it's a fascinating evolutionary leap that helped change the future of anime. Anime Dump gave it 4.5/5, and Anime on DVD gave it A+ on all criteria for Volume 1 and 2, and a mix of A and A+ for Volume 3 and 4. Lain was subject to commentary in the literary and academic worlds. The Asian Horror Encyclopedia calls it an outstanding psycho-horror anime about the psychic and spiritual influence of the Internet. It notes that the red spots present in all the shadows look like blood pools. It notes the death of a girl in a train accident is a source of much ghost lore in the 20th century, more so in Tokyo. The Anime Essentials anthology by Gilles Poitras describes it as a complex and somehow existential anime that pushed the envelope of anime diversity in the 1990s, alongside the much better-known Neon Genesis Evangelion and Cowboy Bebop. Professor Susan J. Napier, in her 2003 reading to the American Philosophical Society called The Problem of Existence in Japanese Animation, compared Serial Experiments Lain to Ghost in the Shell and Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. According to her, the main characters of the two other works cross barriers. They can cross back to our world, but Lain cannot. Napier asks whether there is something to which Lain should return, between an empty real and a dark virtual. Unlike the anime, the video game drew little attention from the public. Criticized for its gameplay, as well as for its clunky interface, interminable dialogues, absence of music and very long loading times, it was nonetheless remarked for its remarkable CG graphics, and its beautiful backgrounds. Cultural references. Lain's artificial intelligent personal assistant NAVI was the basis of the Siri-like guide in the Tokyo Real-Time, Akihabara and audio tour by White Rabbit Press. See also, Noosphere, Notes and References. Further reading, Beitel, Anton. Movie Gazette, Serial Experiments Lain Volume 3, Deus Review. Movie Gazette. Archived from the original on May 21, 2006. Retrieved October 11, 2006. Horn, Carl Gustav. Serial Experiments Lain. Viz Communications. Archived from the original on February 19, 2001. Retrieved September 25, 2010. Moore, Danny. Serial Experiments Lain Vol. Number 2. Mania.com. Retrieved September 25, 2010. Moore, Danny. Serial Experiments Lain Vol. Number 3. Mania.com. Retrieved September 25, 2010. Napier, Susan J. Anime from Akira to Howl's Moving Castle, Experiencing Contemporary Japanese Animation. ISBN 978-1-4039-7052-7. Pra Copyright Vost, Ada Lilies. Muse Basement Manga, The Signal of Noise Mechademia 3 ppA 173 Euro 188 ISSN 1934-2489, Sivakis, Justin. Buried Treasure, Serial Experiments Lain. Anime News Network. Retrieved September 25, 2010. Jackson, C. Topologies of Identity in Serial Experiments Lain. Mechademia 7, 191 Euro 201 doi, 10.1353/mech. 2012.0013. External links, Serial Experiments Lain official website, Serial Experiments Lain at Funimation, Serial Experiments Lain at Anime News Network's Encyclopedia, Serial Experiments Lain at the Internet Movie Database, Serial Experiments Lain soundtrack, Siberia Mixed Music Brains, Anime News Network BD Review, Thought Experiments Lain a Serial Experiments Lain information site.